Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're heading back into Showdown here just to spotlight some more niche Pokemon that have had results recently. And anytime a niche Pokemon gets results, we always want to cover it just because we like role players on this channel. You guys know that, right? And the three that we've chosen so far here are Krookodile, we've chosen Mamoswine, and we've chosen Great Tusk. Three Pokemon that you don't expect to do relatively well in Regulation F. You may have never even seen them, okay? But believe it or not, they have had some results as of late. And I wanted to spotlight them because they each have their own niche role. These are a bunch of C-tier Pokemon, okay? But you can win a tournament with C-tier Pokemon. You can get an advantage against a lot of these meta teams because they have a very, very specific niche, right? So, you know, what we're going to do is cover them, explain why they've been so good, and then also take a look at some of the teams that have had success recently with these three options, okay? And again, I just want to say, you know, we are at the point in the meta, you know, we're deep in the meta, right? Where we know what's good. We know what's like S tier, we know what's A tier, and sometimes you're going to be digging and reaching for that niche Pokemon that can give your squad an edge that maybe some of these meta teams just aren't really prepared for, right? And that's why they have had done well in the tournament that these Pokemon were played in. All right, so let's take a look and let's spotlight them. So let's look at Krookodile here for a second. So ground dark typing. So first of all, that's pretty decent into something like Raging Bolt, for example, right? Because you're a ground type. And then at the same time, the dark typing allows you to sit in front of some of those Iron Crown Psy Spam teams and not have to worry about expanding Force Spam. So that's already pretty good. And because you are a ground type, you can always pressure with something like Earthquake to really hit not only D and DD, but also hit the Iron Crown. So that's already pretty good. And then also, again, hit the Raging Bolt, for example. Good switch in into Raging Bolt because, again, of your ground typing into those electric attacks. And then at the same time, I'm looking at these stats here. At 117 attacks, not that bad, in all honesty, right? If I had to like really consider it. 95 HP is pretty good. Defense 80, that's okay. And then 70 Speed F is the only one that's a little bit lacking. And you have a middling speed here with 92, so you're not that fast, but not that slow either. But something like Tornadus can help you out with that, right? So in terms of like move sets here, we already just talked about Earthquake here, but you also get access to knockoff just like Incineroar, right? So you're a dark type with knockoff, and now you also have something like high horsepower if you don't want to go the Earthquake route. And then from there, you even can do something like Rock Slide here, you know, for a little bit more spread damage. And then of course something like Protect in this last slot with something like Citrus Berry. So something that you can pivot in and out that can, you know, Intimidate cycle, and then you always have knockoff to be able to remove key items here, right? Now, is Incineroar the better Intimidator, right? You know, probably, right? Of course. But Krookodile still gives you that niche option that maybe your just opponents are not really considering. And again, it has had results, which we'll show you in a second. But just in terms of like an EV set here, I think you can just do something like this where you're going to like the third benchmark here, 176. So this way you're doing is like somewhat decent damage. About, yeah, like right here, 236 HP here. And then maybe just a little bit of speed. You don't really need that much speed on Krookodile, in all honesty. And then from here, you can just put like 1 point in defense and just dump the rest here in Speed F. At least get triple digits in your stats in special defense, right? This is a very, very rough EV spread here that I'm just, you know, going for certain benchmarks here. 114 at the very least outspeeds 112. So after something like an Icy Wind, if you run that on your Tornadus or Fluttermanes, then you can at least outspeed something like the Landorses or the other Chi-Yus, for example. So that could be really good. Okay, so again, a decently bulky Krookodile, all right? And, you know, you just, again, look at what it can do against meta. Like, again, Gouging Fire has to worry about Krookodile. You know, you are that ground type. Gouging Fire is a fire type. Incineroar, again, yes, Incineroar can intimidate you, but you can re-pressure the Incineroar right back. Then you just look into something like, again, Raging Bolt. And then, you know, again, the electric moves just doesn't really do that much to you. Stuff like Entei, Chi-Yu, you're pretty good against because, again, of that ground type. Even Glomora, right? You pressure Glomora as well. Even Ogre Pond Heartflame, the one that's actually rising a little bit. You can definitely do something there. So you got a lot of things going for you. King Gambit's another one, right? But technically all these ground types are going to be able to do this. So, Krookodile having this idea, with this ground dart typing. And again, like I said, you're going to do relatively decently in front of those size spam teams, right? So let's take a look at some of those Krookodile teams that have done well. So if we head into the Lab Mouse website here and we just look at the month of February, see what Krookodile teams have been run, and it's really from this one player, Falafel. You can see he's done relatively well recently with the squad that he's been using with Krookodile. Let's look at his latest team, 8-2 in the Pokemon Day Week Spear Pillar Tournament. Okay, and he also used a slightly different variation in the Himi Tourney Tour, but let's look at both variations here. So for the first one here, all right, he's running Chenpao with the Krookodile, so now the Krookodile is going to do a little bit more damage. Same with your Ogerpon Wellspring over here, and Ogerpon's pretty good here with Krookodile just because you can redirect any of the water type attacks away from the Krookodile. And then at the same time, look at this set, Knockoff and High Horsepower like we talked about. Taunt is pretty interesting, okay? I'm not going to lie, Taunt is pretty interesting. Poison Terra, I would imagine that's for the Fairy weakness. You can even consider Fire, so this way you can also resist Ice type attacks in general, because now you're weak to ground types yourself. But all things considered, it's not bad. And then you have Galarian Articuno here, which can deter other Intimidate users onto you, right? Because your Krookodile, your Chenpao, and your Ogerpon, they don't want to be intimidated. But Articuno can take advantage of that a little bit, right? With the competitive here, so that's also pretty nice. And then the Registeel here can just give you like endgame scenarios of just clicking Iron Defenses and Body Presses, right? And then Raging Bolt here with Snarl, so that's good support. So you have Intimidate support, you have Snarl support, and then, of course, Registeel greatly appreciates both. So this way you can start setting it up and finish end games with just +6 body presses, even if they are like neutral hits or resisted. So this is a pretty good Krookodile idea. What about this one right here with Entei and Chenpao here, and then along with Metagross. So this one actually has Breaking Swipe, so an active form of Intimidate, right? Because well, that's actually pretty interesting. So now you have Intimidate and Breaking Swipe. That's pretty cool. And then Knockoff and High Horsepower are still the same over here. Then once again, Raging Bolt here. This is a booster energy Raging Bolt this time because the Assault Vest is on the Entei. He's your Snarl user this time around. And then it's Weakness Policy Metagross, right? So that's pretty cool. And then Chenpao and Ogerpon here, they're again more mainstays here. So Chenpao is going to make everything here do more damage besides the Raging Bolt, of course. But again, just another cool way of trying to utilize this Krookodile here. So I like this a lot. So like again with Chenpao, that's another idea to consider if you don't want to go like a Tornadus route, for example, right? But all things considered, even this one, like this one with Suicune, I would imagine this has Tailwind. Yep, it does. So Suicune Tailwind, along with again the Assault Vest Entei. So like Falafel's been trying a lot of different things with Krookodile. So and again, you got to do this when you're playing online tournaments, right? And you're not really going to regionals, for example. You want to try different things and see how they match up into these big tournaments and also what's going on with the rest of the meta. So good idea here from Falafel. Lots of ideas to explore, but definitely Krookodile, a very, very nice niche option right now in Regulation F. So now let's look at Great Tusk here. So Great Tusk was more of a thing back in Regulation C. And then once Regulation D came out and the introduction of Landorus, nobody used Great Tusk ever again, right? Just because Landorus gave you more attack, it had more speed, and now you had access to Intimidate, and then it was just a better ground type overall, and it still is, right? So people just dropped Great Tusk completely, and you never really saw it after that from Regulation D and even Regulation E, right? But now in Regulation F, because of the way the meta is, and because there's so much Raging Bolt, because there's so much Registeel, and because there's more fire types running around, all of a sudden, and there's not as much Landorus, all of a sudden Great Tusk actually looks decent, somewhat decent, right? And then especially when you can couple it with something like Torkoal and something like Tornadus over here, and then add something like a Fluttermane, right? And now all of a sudden it looks like you have a hyper offensive idea with Great Tusk, okay? And when you have a Jolly set like this, okay, and then you have access to Choice Scarf, you can outspeed a lot of different meta threats right now, especially an Adamant Urshifu, right? Because 152 is another good speed tier in VGC. The Adamant Urshifus are going to cap at 149, so if you can outspeed the 149s, then you can outspeed Adamant Urshifu, and then, you know, you can, you know, hit it hard first, right? So you could just simply do 252, 252, believe it or not, right? And then just, you know, do spread moves with like Earthquake. Then you have access to close combat too, right? So now all of a sudden you can hit stuff like Incineroar relatively hard, and Roaring Moon's relatively hard. Earthquake is still great into the Iron Crown stuff. It's still good into Raging Bolts. So ground fighting is actually relatively interesting in terms of its coverage, right? Then you still get access to stuff like Rock Slide, and that's good against like Dragonite Chien-Pao stuff. They don't like rock damage overall. And then from here, you can just go for something like Headlong Rush, the single target move, okay? Just in case, you know, Earthquake just isn't feasible. You know, maybe there's a Rillaboom on the field, for example, right? But you can definitely do something like this, right? You know, with Torkoal, Flutter Mane, right? Here's your physical attacker, and then here's your support options. Here's your special attackers, right? So this is like a key core for something like Great Tusk. And then you can even consider something like Walking Wake. On teams like this, you could even consider Raging Bolt on teams like this. And what the teams that we're going to show you actually did do that, which again makes a lot of sense just because of the synergy that you're going to be getting with Torkoal over here with the Drought and the Sun and, you know, Photosynthesis, right? And the first time that we saw Great Tusk back in Regulation F was when Mr. Pengy was using this when he was trying to do like the whole Photosynthesis squad with you know, Flutter Mane, Raging Bolt, and even Walking Wake, right? And then after a while, he said, you know what, I don't need the Great Tusk anymore, and he dropped that completely and then just went full Jump Pluff, and from there, it was the rest was history, right? So, but now there was a tournament where we did see some good Great Tusk results, so we'll take a look at some of those squads and just see what the player was trying to do. So back into Lab Mouse here, and again, a couple cool Great Tusk teams. So let's look at Felipe's Great Tusk team, 10-4 result back at Melbourne Regionals. So that was pretty cool. Let's take a look at what he was using here. But pretty much it was the Torkoal stuff along with Raging Bolt. So again, Photosynthesis core, right? This is the Choice Scarf set, as we said. Terra Ground for a little bit more extra damage. Then you had Raging Bolt here with Goggles. Volt Switch. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right. And then, of course, Fairgraph here with Trick Room. That's going to help the Torkoal click Eruption and stuff. And then after that, it's just Ogerpon Wellspring, and then the Dark Urshifu for, you know, something for your Side Spam matchup, right? So Fire, Water, Grass core, and then a Dragon over here. No Dragon Fairy Steel, but that's still okay, right? So, again, Great Tusk having good access to a lot of different moves here for very specific matchups. It's a very strong physical attacker to go along with the Urshifu, which by the way, is Power Band here, so that's pretty cool. So this is like the Trick Room idea that he had here. So shout out to Philip for doing this. But then if we keep going down here from Kwani over here from Pokemon Day Week, he's got an 8-2 squad here. So let's take a look at this. And this one is also pretty common, right? So Tornadus, Flutter Mane, Torkoal, Raging Bolt, Great Tusk. So here, once again, the Photosynthesis core, right? And then it's Specs, Flutter Mane, it's Citrus Berry, Torkoal with Burning Jealousy, Eruption, Helping Hand. So, you know, a pivoting Torkoal, you know, to support either one of these guys. It's still Sunny Day Tornadus with a Sash, and then AV Incineroar, which is pretty cool here in the Sun. So it's probably maybe some Adamant set that, you know, Adamant 116 maybe, just to do a little bit more extra damage in the Sun. So this is actually a really, really cool team from Kwani, and I like it a lot. So shout outs to Kwani if you're ever watching it. But this is a banded Great Tusk as opposed to a Choice Scarf. That's because you're getting Tailwind access from Tornadus over here. But still the same moveset as Felipe's team, so that's pretty cool. Then 7-1 down here, still with Torkoal, but now we have the Indeedee Trick Room core with also Armorage here, so that's pretty cool as well. Rather than something like a Hatterene here, but still makes a lot of sense here. Here's Gallade here. We've seen Gallade on these Indeedee Trick Room teams before, and then here's the Cornerstone Ogerpon for, you know, again, for matchup specific things. But this is a Sash Great Tusk here as well with Terra Steel, but still the same set, except there's Protect here. So no Earthquake, which again is okay, right? You know, there's not a lot of Protect over here on this particular team, okay? But again, the whole idea is, look, I've got Great Tusk, I've got Torkoal. What direction do you want to take the team in? Do you want to go the Tornadus route? Do you want to go more of a balanced Raging Moon route? Or do you want to go like Hard Trick Room route with some of like either Indeedee Armourouge or Indeedee Hatterene, right? So cool, great Tusk ideas, all right? Just all depends on how you really want to run the Great Tusk. So next up here, I also wanted to take a look at Mamoswine here, just because ground ice typing is also pretty good timing in a lot of different things, especially this ice thing. You know, Rillaboom gets smacked, Amoonguss gets smacked, Landorus gets smacked, Tornadus gets smacked, and then Priority Ice Shard is the thing, and that's something that the other ground types, they don't give you, right? And then at the same time, you put pressure against stuff like, again, Raging Bolt, the fire types, all that, and then Oblivious means you can't get intimidated. Okay, so stuff like Incineroar, if you want to intimidate it, it's not going to work. So Mamoswine looking really good, especially when you have stuff like Tornadus, again, to give you that speed control. Because again, Mamoswine's speed tier isn't all that great. Great physical attacker though, pretty bulky in HP. But I think here, this is another one of those cases where you just go straight Jolly and just use your speed, use your attack to your advantage, and maybe even put a Sash or something like a Life Orb or aggressive item on this thing. But, you know, again, Mamoswine also looks pretty good on these Tornadus teams. And again, just the fact that you can always switch this in onto something like a Raging Bolt is always a boon to have at your side, all right? And if we take a look at Labmouse again, when we switch over here from Great Tusk to Mamoswine, all right, there's a few of these teams, especially from over here from Liverpool, so it's not that late, like over here from Steiner, right? Let's take a look at this. So here's the Tornadus. This is actually a loaded dice Mamoswine, 6'3", by the way, in this regional. High horsepower, Icicle Spear, and then there's Haze, so that's pretty cool. You get to remove all these buffs that's running around. And then here's Protect. This is actually thick, fat Mamoswine, so that's also pretty nice to see. But again, Chiyu Fluttermane over here with Tornadus, and also Raging Bull. Again, special attackers. Here's your Ogerpon Wellspring. So there's the idea here with this Mamoswine. I like that. And then over here, even Kojei's team over here, right? So if we just look at this one is the Indeedee Iron Crown variant with Tornadus, but Mamoswine still works here, okay? Like Tailwind support, again, aggressive Life Orb user from Mamoswine. You know, makes a lot of sense on a team like this. So I like any of these three ground types, okay? So let me know what you think is the better of the three. Do you like Krookodile more? Do you like Mamoswine more, or do you like Great Tusk more? But I think all three have a niche role. You know, even if it is small, they are still definitely viable, and you can definitely make them playable. All right, so we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out, and good luck with the global challenge.